Yes, I'm Justin. I'm from Japan. I'm living in Nagasaki, and I've been here for about 20 years. So I'm originally from New Zealand, but I almost forget some of the details about New Zealand now when people ask me questions. So I'm stranded here. And today I'm going to talk about PoodLL, which is in particular PoodLL and audio and video recording. PoodLL is in fact not quite as new as many people think, because it's been around since Moodle 1.9, but I think it's been reasonably well known in Japan, but in other countries it hasn't been so well known. And this year I made a bit of an effort to market it, or to get the website going, and tell more people about it, and that's actually paid some dividends. And I think part of that is because there wasn't really much of a recording solution for people on Moodle 2.2 and above, although that has changed recently. I'm just going to change the layout. How do I change the layout, Julian? Or can you do that for me so you can see my slides? Into the slides here, so that's not right. Want to be at the very beginning. All right, good. So, great. Okay, so audio and video recording with PoodLL. So audio and video recording, it's something that a lot of people want for their... Oh, sorry, before I begin, I'm very sorry, I should say that I have to cut this session a little bit short. So although it's scheduled as a normal session, I can only really go for about 45 minutes. So it's my fault. I got the time zone wrong, and I had a schedule change at my school, so I won't be here for the whole period. So I'll try and condense the presentation that I gave a bit earlier, uh, and still leave some time for questions at the end. And some people have said that my sound is a little choppy. If it becomes unbearable, please tell me, but if you can bear with it, I'll just continue. Right, so audio and video recording, it's something that a lot of people need in the language learning environment, and in some other testing environments too. I've had some people want to use it in computer science classes, where they want to test that students can actually verbalize, or give can communicate what they want to, what their ideas are, or their work is all about, in clear English. So audio and video recording, it's quite important in some contexts, and some people have said that they didn't want to move from Moodle 1.9 to Moodle 2 because they didn't have a good recording solution. And now that Nanogong is back and we have PoodLL, that's probably going to help some people move on to Moodle 2. All right, so what is PoodLL? Well, PoodLL is actually a set of modules for language learning classes in Moodle, and it's not just recording, but I think recording is the one that's got the most attention. It's also, we have a whiteboard, and we have some quite snazzy little flashcards, timers, stopwatches, and some players, amongst other things. But audio and video recording is what gets the most attention, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. And originally, PoodLL was, we called it the Open Source Language Laboratory, and that's the byline that we still have now. Although in some ways it's changed a little bit in Moodle 2, because we've trimmed it way back to the essentials. And so a lot of the things that you see on the left-hand side for PoodLL for Moodle 1.9, they're no longer around. And although I will bring those back probably in a different project, at this stage we are going with the simple set of modules that you see on the right hand side here. And I'll talk more about each of those modules from now. Okay, so PoodLL for Moodle 2, it's a PoodLL repository, which is an audio and video recording repository, and it's also an online assignment type. So Mark Dreschler, he's here, he and his team have created a new assignment, the new assignment type for Moodle 2.3 and beyond. So this is still using the old assignment types, and I believe they still can be used, although we may actually modify this to go forward. And then we have a PoodLL audio and video recording question type. So you can record audio and video into it as a response to a question. And that's actually quite a popular little mod. And then in the middle here we have the PoodLL filter. Now the PoodLL filter contains all the common code, and it contains all the widgets. So even if you wish to have if you wish to just have the PoodLL repository, you still need the PoodLL filter. And if you wish to just have the PoodLL assignment type or the recording type, well, you still need the PoodLL filter. So you need this. And this is about 12 megabytes or so, which is not a huge size, but the Moodle.org plugins page has a limit of 8 megabytes. So actually I can't put the latest filter onto the plugins page, and I need to contact somebody about that. So for now, if you want to install any of these, you'll really need to come to the PoodLL.com website and download those. Or we do have versions on the Moodle.org plugins page, but they're a little bit older now. I see Michael give me some information about that. Great. So Michael says here he can do something about the plugins. Yeah, that's going to be really helpful. I don't like really to have people downloading the older stuff. Right now, the PoodLL filter. Let's talk about each of those. Let's talk about each of these components as we go through. So the PoodLL filter, it contains a number of widgets like this, and these get dropped into anywhere that you have an HTML area on your site. And the PoodLL filter string actually looks a bit like this. I should say. This is actually what the PoodLL string would look like. And if that string is anywhere that you have an HTML area and the PoodLL filter is enabled, that string will be replaced by a stopwatch. And the stopwatch, do we have a stopwatch here? This is a stopwatch here. Okay, and we have a countdown timer and audio recorder, video recorder, players, and some other widgets here. You can see a calculator here. But today we're not going to talk about all of those widgets. We're going to talk about the recorders specifically and recording specifically. So I'll just move on from here, but just be aware that there are some other things, some other goodies in that PoodLL filter. And most of the ones that don't require recording are actually HTML5 enabled. So you could use this dice or this whiteboard, these stopwatches or this calculator here from an iPad or from an iPhone or an Android device. PoodLL filter settings. I think I'll come back on this if we need to, because we've had to cut the time down a little bit, so I don't want to waste time here. Right, so here are our PoodLL recorders, and we've got 4 of them. The first one here is the PoodLL video recorder that records using Red 5 server, and you can record on your own Red 5 server if you have one, but that's something in PoodLL 2 we've tried to eliminate the need for by having a server in the cloud. We've got a server on the Amazon EC2 server here in Tokyo, or in Tokyo. And this is the audio recorder, which uses Red 5, and that again uses our cloud server, but you could use your own Red 5 server should you have one. Over here we've got the webcam snapshot recorder. It might be cheating to call that a recorder, but it's really it takes a picture with your web camera, and then you can put that picture straight into a user profile or somewhere onto an HTML area, or as a body, as an answer to a question even. It's just a new thing I put through because I guess most of these mods I need myself, and I had a situation where I needed to have students' photographs, and they all had webcams on their machine, so it seemed like a good thing to do. And over here, this is a new recorder which Paul Nichols from the University of Canterbury actually developed, and you know, people have a little bit of trouble with Red 5 sometimes. Even though we have a hosted server that they can access online, sometimes it doesn't work for people. So he had an MP3 recorder which he's developed, which works standalone, doesn't require any Red 5 server or any firewall traversal or anything like that. So it's really neat, and he said that we could use that. So we've now put that into our repository, and later on we'll be integrating that with the recording questions and the assignment types. If I'm going a bit quick, if you have a question, please just type a little response in there for me, a little question there for me, and I'll deal with it. Great, thanks guys. All right, well, let's talk about this recording in the cloud. Todd just asked if there's any length restrictions, and there's no length restrictions, no. I think it's basically the MP3 recorder that Paul Nichols developed, this one here, the length restriction would probably be your upload file limit within your PHP or within your Moodle settings. With regards to PoodLL, there's really no restriction on length, although the longer you get, obviously the quality may diminish, or it may be harder for you to get that file back into Moodle. Let me explain a little bit about getting the file into Moodle now. So recording in the cloud. So what's this all about? Well, a lot of people have trouble with Red 5. It's a brute to install, and with Moodle 1.9 you needed to, and that really raised the bar so high that most Moodle users really couldn't do it. They needed to have some technical skills, and if you had a cheapo web hosting account on HostMonster or GoDaddy or somewhere like that, you were basically out of luck because you couldn't install a big honking Java Red 5 server on your site. So we set up a server here in Japan, in Tokyo. It's called tokyopoodle.com, and that's free to access. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to register even. You just go straight in there. And Don Hinkleman, he was here when I gave this presentation on Sunday, and he said, well, how do you manage to host the whole world? I mean, how can you do that? Well, I'll explain that now. So basically the student records, and when they record, the recording goes straight up into our server in Tokyo, tokyopoodle.com, and when they click submit or save, then Moodle actually makes a request. There should be another arrow here, but Moodle actually makes, let me draw that arrow, shall I? Moodle actually makes a request to tokyo.poodle.com for that file, and then tokyo.poodle.com returns that file to Moodle. And at that point, you don't need the tokyo.poodle.com anymore. So any playback or anything that's required from that file, regarding that file, takes place between the Moodle server and the student. So this tokyo.poodle.com is only really required when you are doing the recording. It doesn't store your file, and in fact, shortly after it's been downloaded, or if it's not downloaded, it's actually deleted. So your file doesn't stay there very long. So that's how we can actually host so many recordings at one time, because the lifetime of that recording is actually very short. Okay, and it also means that your file is it's in the Moodle file system, so it's just like uploading a file from your computer, subject to all of the restrictions and limitations that your Moodle server, the security systems of Moodle, apply. So it's actually a good thing, a really good thing. Complete control. And later, Drew McAllister just asked how long we keep the recordings, and we keep them for about an hour. Actually, I think it's as short as 30 minutes now. So I think some people feel a bit uneasy about that because it's students' work, and if they do feel uneasy about that, then the best thing to do is to get your own Red 5 server, I suppose. Or if you are using, if you're just doing audio recording, you could use the MP3 recorder by Paul Nichols, and that of course doesn't get stored on the tokyo.poodle.com. Okay. Now the next thing I want to talk about is I'll just skip over the network part of things for now. I want to talk about recording to MP3 or MP4. Now Paul Nichols' recorder, that will record directly to MP3, which is wonderful, and I'm going to talk about why we should record to MP3 first. If we record to MP3 or MP4, one of the big benefits of that is that your recording will play back on mobile devices. So if you're a content creator and you record an audio file into MP3, or you record that audio file into MP4, that'll play back nicely on a tablet, an Android tablet, or an iPad, or one of these mobile phone devices. And another little problem with just recording straight to FLV and not converting is that when you do it from the repository file picker, it has an extension .flv, and of course Moodle doesn't know if that's a video or an audio file, so it will display a video player by default. So even though it's just an audio file, you'll get this great big honking player here. Okay, but if your file extension is MP3, then you'll get a nice little small audio player like this. This is actually we've actually just customized the look and feel a little bit of the Flow player here to give you this blue audio player, but you actually have the option of just using the default multimedia plugins filter to get the standard MP3 player that you see in most Moodle installs. Okay. With regards to video, the look is really no different between an FLV file or an MP4 file in terms of the player. But when you try and play it back on a mobile device, the FLV file is unlikely to play back. So let's talk about MP3 and MP4 with PoodLL recording. So what we've done is we've actually put a conversion utility here on our server. So if you select in the PoodLL filter settings that you want to convert video files automatically to MP4, or you want to convert audio files to MP3, then before they're downloaded by Moodle, they are first converted to MP3 or MP4 and then downloaded. Okay, that's a really neat little feature, and worked pretty hard on that. And it works quite nicely, but the MP4 file does take a wee bit of time to convert. So my advice to you is to have the students record audio as MP3 and just leave the video as FLV. But for your own content creation, I would use MP4, and that way your content will be accessible on mobile devices if your students actually access your courses via mobile devices. Okay, and this is also a little bit of a placeholder, because later on we have plans to handle iPhone, iPad, Android kind of style device recordings via our tokyo.poodle.com server, and again we'll be able to convert different file formats such as .mov or .ogg, or those different formats that are recorded too. We'll be able to convert those to MP3 or MP4, which will give us a nice standard playback situation. Sarah, I should post my PowerPoint. Sarah just asked if I'll post my PowerPoint file for people to download, and yes, I will do that. So do that shortly. Okay, let me keep on talking though. I've actually already covered the standalone MP3 recorder, but let's just do it in a little bit more detail. Everything in PoodLL is actually written by me, and to a small extent Tom Rawson. He's also here in Nagasaki. Tom Rawson does a lot of the infrastructure. So he does some of the coding, but he does things like PoodLL demo site and a lot of the scripting and behind the scenes work, and our tokyo.poodle.com server. But this here, the standalone MP3 recorder, is written by Paul Nichols from the University of Canterbury. So I actually contacted him to allow us to use it in our repository, and he said, well, he actually had a repository, but he'd never been able to just go the final yard and get it going. And so we worked together to get it going, and it really was only a millimeter short of the finish line. Actually, it was really just a typo almost. So now there's actually, he has a separate MP3 recorder repository which you can download, but it's also available in the PoodLL repository. Now what have we got here? Is PoodLL an activity, or does it fit into the WYSIWYG editor of any edit box? There is a PoodLL assignment type. There is a PoodLL, okay, so Miriam said there is a PoodLL assignment type. I'm not sure if that's a question, but there is a PoodLL assignment type. That's the online assignment type. Now, this might be a good time for me to drop into screen share mode, and I'll just show you actually PoodLL in operation so you can see what I'm talking about. Let me share my screen. Okay, so this is our PoodLL demo course, and the PoodLL demo course, you can access it from here, demo.poodle.com, and the login credentials are here. Admin is Google PoodLL, and the usernames 01 to 50. This gets reset every night at midnight, so you can come in here and just play like crazy. So I often send people here if they're having trouble getting Moodle set up on their PoodLL set up on their own sites, because this is a good place to check the settings and have a little play, and then try and replicate those settings on your own site. So here we have a PoodLL online assignment. This is a video recording. Let's have a look at the video recording. This is a submission that I've made, so you can actually, if you click here, you'll see the Let's edit that. So from a student's point of view, how will this look? Okay, so we'll get our video. You see our video player here, and you'll see me. Here's me. And you just click on the record button, and it records. Stop. That little spinner shows that the file is being copied. We save changes now. Click on here, we'll see. That's actually, I believe that's an MP4. I think I've recorded to MP4 there. Let's go back and have a look at the audio recording assignment. Okay. So similarly, you have an audio recorder, and this may not work very well because my audio is already been captured by Adobe Connect, but let's try. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And again, that little spinner shows that the file is being copied over into Moodle from our tokyo.poodle.com server. Here we can see there's a little splash screen to indicate there's a player there. Okay. So those are two assignment types, two assignment types, yes. Well, one assignment type with two options, an audio or video recording option, and they are graded just as you would grade a manual assignment type, manual grading, essay assignment type, I guess. Look over here, you can see each of the recordings of the different users here. Okay, the little splash screen, I'll talk about that in a minute, but that's to prevent browsers crashing when you have 30 or 40 players load on one screen. For example, I'm not sure what this user. This is probably somebody who came to a demo site and recorded something, but it looks like that. Okay, now let's just quickly head back. I want to show you the repository now because some people asked about this. So let me just, I'll go into site administration and show you how you would add a repository for PoodLL plugin, the PoodLL repository. Look at the repositories here. So we've got PoodLL. So I've already let's have a look at manage repositories. Here we have PoodLL here. This is so it's been enabled and it's visible, and you can see there are 4 site-wide common instances because with PoodLL there's not just one instance of one repository site-wide. You actually have to choose which kind of PoodLL repository you want to use, and then that will be enabled. So let's click on the PoodLL repository settings here, and you see I've actually got 4 repository types, and if I click here create a repository instance, you'll see what I mean. There are 4 options when you create one. You can create an audio recorder, which is using Red 5, the video recorder using Red 5, snapshot, that's the one we talked about with the web camera, or the audio recorder using Paul Nichols' MP3 standalone recorder. So if we go back to our course, and let's turn editing on, and we'll add a page to our course. And into this page we will put, I'll use a repository to add some stuff. Page. Simple page. Page description. Right, and here we are. Here's the content. So if we click, for example, let's click the Insert Edit Image. We've got Find or Upload an Image. And here we've got our PoodLL snapshot on the left-hand side. That's our PoodLL snapshot repository. So let's have a look. Right, and there's me again. Looks very similar to the recorder, the video recorder, because that's what I did. Make a big smile. Hey. There we go. Took a while to click. All right, and I save that. So my click's not working. Go over. There's my file there. Insert. Okay. And now my HTML area has me. Okay. And should I want to add video. Let's add. This is the MP3 recorder by Paul Nichols. This is the audio recorder which records to tokyopoodle.com. And this is the video recorder which also records to tokyo.poodle.com. So let's save. Click on next. And you see that's got MP4 there. So that's we're actually recording to MP4. And there MP4 shows. Insert. And here you see the link, actually it looks like a text link, and that will be displayed as an MP4 video when we do save and display. And I've opted to use a splash screen here so that this is the default site-wide, so that you have to click it first to actually see the player and to see the video. And that's because I like to use, or I suggest people use audio and video recording in forums and in databases and things like that, where you may have a number of those players showing on one particular page. And some people that doesn't seem to cause a problem, but I have had browsers crashing, especially with students. It's a bit of a drag. So let's come back to my presentation then. Beginning, or okay, it takes us back to where we were. Great. Okay, let's have a look here. So Miriam says she tried this as a student on her demo site, on my demo site, and it works. So the network is not the issue. Well, that's actually a good thing, really, Miriam. It just means you just need to change some of your settings, and it will work in your workplace. So that's good news, not bad news. And Todd said, with the changes to the assignment that Martin announced today about 2.3, will this be a problem with using PoodLL, or will it be a part of Core OR? Todd, are you talking about did Martin announce changes to assignments with 2.3, or is that Mark's assignment, the new assignment for 2.3? I must admit I missed Martin's keynote, and I really wish I hadn't, because there was some information there about audio and video recording going to the core of 2.4, so I do need to catch up there. Oh, I see, Todd. Yes, all assignments will be combined into one assignment activity. Yes, well, I think you're right. And Mark, I'm not sure if he's still here, Mark Dreschler, but they've actually got backwards compatibility, so you can still use the old assignment types with Moodle 2.3 and above. But yes, to go forward, we will actually be looking at moving that into perhaps a separate activity that isn't a part of the assignment itself. But that's in the future. As for now, you can still use it, but we have to look at how to go forward with that. And some people have said, well, if you can access the video recorder via the repository, do you actually need to have the simple video recording assignment where you could just instruct the students to go to the repository and drop a video in? So there's an argument there, isn't there? So I just have to think about that, really. Okay, let's move forward. I might just skip this particular section here. I'll just explain what it is, but without going into too much detail. The audio and video settings for your camera and your microphone, they can vary from PC to PC, but if you're working with a computer lab, they're probably going to be the same. And so you can set those site-wide using the PoodLL filter settings page, and those will be applied to the settings page or settings of the recorder itself. On each of the recorders, you do have a settings page, settings tab, I guess, here, and that allows you to do settings on an individual level on each particular computer, but they aren't remembered. What's remembered here is the PoodLL filter settings, and those are applied to each instance. This is the audio settings, and this is the video settings. And the settings do make quite a difference, so it's worth playing with them. In particular, the video settings, I better just cover this. We have the bandwidth connection here, and then we have the web camera quality settings here. So if you think of webcam quality, if you think of that as compression, then 10 would be very low compression and high quality, and 1 would be lots of compression and pretty poor quality. And either of these should be set to 0. So the bandwidth should be set to 0, or the web camera quality set to 0. And then Flash will figure out the best settings for the 0-based connection, a 0-based setting. So I suggest you set the bandwidth setting to 0 and then play with your webcam quality to see what gives you the best results. Okay. Every install is going to be different, so you'll have to play and tweak a little bit. But don't be discouraged if when you first try to record you get rotten results. If you play a little bit, you'll probably find a nice balance there. Okay, and let's talk about MP3 and MP4. So the multimedia plugins filter, that can actually, or does, it displays, it'll take a file, a link that looks like this from the HTML editor, and it will display that as a video file, which is great. But you don't get much control. So although there is a facility to control it by going into some config files and altering sizes, or even just going into the HTML and editing some of the parameters to this this link, you haven't got a great deal of control. And with the PoodLL filter, we've added a little bit of control. It's probably not a bunch, but it's some. So let's have a look. Teresa's having some problems with recording on the demo site. Okay, it may be that you're behind a firewall, Teresa. So if that's the situation, you'd probably go into the PoodLL filter settings, which I perhaps could show you a bit later on if we have time, and set the port from port 1935 to port 80. Gosh, that's confusing. I'll come back on that, Teresa. Just give me a second. I won't finish the seminar without getting you through there. But here we have the situation with the PoodLL filter handling some of those files. So if you wanted to handle FLV files or MP4 files or MP3 files, you just check the appropriate box. So what can you do? Well, first of all, if you allow PoodLL to handle your player type, your settings, you can choose if the default player is the PoodLL player, which is this one here, or if it's the JW player, which is this one here, or if it's our slightly modified Flow player, which is this one here. The demerit of the PoodLL player, and one of the reasons I no longer suggest you use this, is it doesn't play MP3 out of the box. That's a drag. And also for accessibility purposes, it's not that great. We've had a situation where the University of Austin, Texas was using PoodLL, and their blind students actually had a bit of trouble with this player because it wasn't the buttons didn't get read well by the screen reader. So that's when I started to move things over and start using the JW player or the Flow player. Both of these are good. The JW player has a different license, however, and if you want to use it for commercial purposes, you have to see them. So that's why I suggest you use the Flow player. And we've done a little bit of work with the Flow player so that you get those splash images. So our recommended player these days is the Flow player. And those splash images, let's talk about that a little. When a page has one or many audio video players, you can elect to show a splash screen. So here we have a standard black splash screen. And this will prevent those problems that you get sometimes where a browser will hang on a whole bunch of players loading. If you don't have that situation, then just uncheck these boxes here and you'll just go straight to the players themselves. And for some people that's probably going to be fine. We've actually, we're going to be implementing splash screen generation pretty soon. So that means that when this file here, when the video file is copied over into Moodle, will also generate a splash image which gets copied over into Moodle too. So you won't have this generic black box. You'll actually have the first frame of the video being displayed there. So that will make this a little bit more visually attractive. Okay, and Teresa's still battling away there, so I'm going to come and just show Teresa now one or two settings which might get her through and which might get other people through. Any problem with Flash Player conflicting with other players, real WMV? I haven't had any problems like that, Todd. No. Do you think when you say Flash Player, do you mean Flow Player? Probably yes. Those other, let's go back here. The PoodLL filter only handles the FLV files, the MP4 files, or the MP3 files. So you choose those. It won't handle any other files. And if you deselect these, then they'll just fall straight through to the multimedia plugins filter, which does handle some of those other players, other file types, WMV or real. Okay. Now, Teresa, let's come back and just talk about Teresa. I hope Teresa's still listening to us here. Teresa, when you record, there's some settings here in the PoodLL filter settings. And the main one that you want to be aware of here is this port 1935, or the PoodLL server port RTMP. The default would be 1935, which gives you best results. Okay, it's the most reliable, and it's great. But it's often blocked by a firewall. So if you're behind a school network, you or your students will find sometimes that 1935 is blocked by your firewall, which is nasty. So you can actually change this number here, this 1935 number. You can change that to port 80. Absolutely, Teresa. It's on 1935 now. Well, if you just stay there, I'm going to go through and I'm going to change it to port 80 for you, and let's just see if it works, shall we? You can watch as I do this. So I'll just stop sharing. I'll go back to sharing my screen with my box. Yeah. Go back to Firefox. Now to change these settings, let's go over here to course administration, site administration. Filters, PoodLL filter, and here you see we've got port 1935. So let's change that to port 80, okay? And that will get you through the firewall. But you may find the recording gets truncated a little bit at the end, or every now and then you get another little bit of weirdness. But it does work. It gets you through the firewall, so it's certainly not a bad option. We've changed there. I'm going to come back now. Okay, is it working now? Yeah, okay, great. So that's actually a really good example of this network setting there. We just got Teresa up and running. So she's behind a nasty firewall. So if she sets it to port 80, she'll get through the firewall. But you'll find that every now and then the audio gets a little bit truncated towards the end. It's not the perfect setting, but it does work. So Teresa going. Yeah, we've already seen the PoodLL repository, but this is it here. Here we have our PoodLL recording question type. So when you, if you want to set up one of these, you just choose here PoodLL recording from the question bank, and then choose audio or video response here, and the student will accordingly get an audio or a video recorder to respond to their question. We'll be putting Paul Nichols' snazzy MP3 player in there pretty soon. In the online assignment, very similar. You have choose your PoodLL online here, select video or voice as a response, and they'll get a video recorder or an audio recorder. The feedback type, so when you respond to the student, at this stage it's just text. It used to be voice or video, but I removed that just to make things a bit simpler, and because now you do have the repository, so you can actually choose a video, or you can record a video or an audio directly from the repository. And finally, before we go into questions, let me just talk about the Adobe Bug. Sorry, I wasn't going to talk about this, but probably full disclosure, I think we need to. One of the problems with using Adobe and other things like that is you do have to deal with their bugs. And so Adobe now has a bug, and it affects the most current Flash players. And that is audio-only recordings to FLV won't play back. And if there's a video in there, it'll play back. But the audio-only recordings don't play back. And it's a bit of a compatibility issue with the way the FLV file is created by our and other Red 5 servers. It's not PoodLL specific. But we do have some workarounds. The first workaround is to use port 1935 from tokyo.poodl.com, because I've compiled a special Red 5 there which actually gets you around that problem. So I suggest Teresa and all those other people is you get onto your IT department and get them to open port 1935. It'll give you the best results. And that'll also get you around this nasty flash bug here that we've got. If you auto convert to MP3 because it's not an FLV file, that'll also play back. So that's another option for you. Again, you'll need to use tokyo.poodle.com, and that auto conversion will work once the file is moved over into Moodle. But from within the player, if you're just checking the recording you've just made before you click save, or then it still won't play back. But the MP3, once it's been converted, will play back nicely. Or you could upgrade your Flash player to 11.3 beta. It's been fixed in the beta version. Or you could downgrade to older versions of the Flash player. But that does mean you getting into your labs and upgrading and downgrading, and it's not that easy. Easier said than done. All right. Okay, so I've raced through a little bit quick. I can't believe I've really got through all of that in the time period that we had. We do have a little bit of time for questions now, so if anybody has questions, please ask them. Nobody asked questions, I'm going to tell jokes. And the last time I started telling jokes, everybody just started to drop off the whole session. So hopefully there's a few questions. The settings for audio and video, do students need to do that? They don't need to do that. On the Poodle filter settings page, you just saw me edit some settings there to get Teresa to get through that port 80, port 1935 problem. So on that settings page, if the administrator sets the various settings there, then those are applied automatically to the students' recorders when they're displayed. Okay, so the student really has to have no knowledge of that. It's probably the students will only really need to adjust their own settings if perhaps they weren't in the same location. Perhaps you had students accessing it from home and they had different situations. Does this service have to use tokyo.poodle.com? No, it doesn't. You can actually download your own Red 5 server and have it within your firewall, within your school. Have it on the same machine as your Moodle server if you like. I have some information on the poodle.com website talking about how to do that, and I'm happy just to show people how to do it, set them all up. You could, even if you're very clever, you could actually use a clone of our tokyo.poodle.com server on Amazon, and we just clone it very simply, and then you'd be able to have your own server on Amazon. That would work. Is Poodle related to, of course, all these chats are coming through quick and fast. Is Poodle related to Moodle? I don't know. What is Moodle? Oh, wait, so that's the language lab. No, it's not related to that. Although I think when we started out, we wanted to be something like that. We've gone off in a slightly different direction. Yes, Nathan. So yes, you can host it on a local server, and quite a few schools actually do that. Actually, all the 1.9 users had to do that. Where have I seen the most effective use of this tool? I wonder, Todd, are you talking about in terms of sites, or are you talking about in terms of areas within Moodle? Let me talk about areas within Moodle. Within Moodle, I think the assignments is where I use it the most. I ask students to record regularly into assignments, and that works very nicely. There's a lot of initial resistance to recording, especially video. Students don't like to see their own face, but if you do it regularly, that resistance breaks down. And also, if you ask them to do it in various situations, for example, to introduce a thing like a toy or something that's special to them, or you ask them to record a conversation where they don't feel like they're the only one that's in the camera, then that seems to work a little bit better too. Also, forums is probably mostly used in forums, the video recording anyway, for peer review, because audio and video recordings are actually really time consuming to respond to. So for peer review, it's actually really good. And Don's not here now, but Don actually has a video recording peer review module. I forget the actual name, which he was talking about earlier in the iMoot. Why can't we install a Red 5 server on a GoDaddy hosting account? I have my own Moodle, but hosted on GoDaddy and wanted to install this, but your comment made me pause. Thanks, Sarah. No, you don't need to install Red 5. You just do the standard Moodle install, and it will work fine. In the old days, you needed to, but you need to have basically full control of the machine. You need to be able to install Java and to install other servers and set up networks and open ports on the firewall. So those are things which really you don't have access to on one of the cheapy GoDaddy or the other hosting accounts. You just couldn't do it technically. But now that requirement is gone. So actually, people do run PoodLL on HostMonster and GoDaddy style accounts. It's no problem. If you want to try PoodLL, here's the demo site link here. You can just click on there and just go crazy, just try things out. I raced through really fast, so you probably do have a few more questions. But if you just send them to me by email, there's my email there, or come to the blog and just contact me there from www.poodl.com, and that'll be fine. And I better not leave you without giving you my joke. So here's my joke. Julian, don't steal it. What's white and lives in your stomach? I don't know. What's white and lives in your stomach? The abdominal snowman. Ha ha ha. Yeah, you can use it. It's cool. I didn't make it up. Well, thanks very much everybody for coming along and listening to the presentation today. I really appreciate you coming, and I'm sorry I've had to cut it short, but I hope it was useful for you. And I'm really happy to take any questions later via email or on the blog. Thanks very much.
Hi, Justin. Julian here, just wanting to jump in quickly before you have to disappear. Thank you again for demonstrating PoodLL. It's a fantastic demo. I'm about to read Nathan's comment, actually. And I also agree, a very snappy product. I think rather than PoodLL, we need to find some other more snappy dog to refer to. I'm very glad to see the love coming out for it. Please do download it, do trial it, do give Justin and his team feedback. I assume there's a team. It may just be Justin. I apologise if it is just yourself. It's been great to see it. And you said at the beginning it's been around for a while. I hadn't realised. I thought it was new. So thank you again for a great product, and thank you for presenting and making the time.
Yep. Thanks very much, Julian. I really love being here. We are a team. There's another guy called Tom. He doesn't do as much coding, but he does some coding, and he does a lot of infrastructure work. So, yeah. Okay. Thanks very much, everyone. Goodbye.